Welcome back to another episode. Oh my God. Welcome back to another episode here on Hacks and Hobbies. Today I got Scherrie Prince. Sherry, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Did I pronounce your name correctly? Because Siri is like responding to me now.
No, that is perfect. It actually is. Yes.
Awesome. So Sherry, tell me about before I ask you about how you got here, you're an attorney and asset protection coach, and you help entrepreneurs teach how to manage their business plans and estate plans to create a moat around their assets. That's an interesting word to be used in this specific area. So I'm sure there's a story behind why you got in here, and I would love to understand what inspired you to get into this.
Yes. Well, a lot of hard knocks growing up. I had somewhat of a difficult childhood.
Mhm.
My mother passed away when I was 16.
I'm
And
sorry to say
so,
less.
yeah, as long as I can remember, she was sick. And by that time, my brother and I kind of bounced around from household to household. And when my grandparents passed away, because we eventually wound up at their house,
Hmm.
they did not have a will or a trust. And there was this huge thing in my family about who was going to get what and the
Hmm.
land. They had a 150 plus acre farm, who was going to get the land here and how much. And so there was this huge thing that really divided our family. So that was the first thing. That was my first encounter with there has to be a better way. And my first business at the age of 21 was a great business. But we did not have a lot of formalities. We didn't have a business plan. We just really had a handshake. The business itself was successful, but my partner's wife walked in one day and said, "Hey, I'm your new partner, and we're doing business together." And I didn't want to be in business with her because I didn't really know her. And so those two things are the most pivotal um, instances that I can recall that really led me to working with entrepreneurs on just how to protect their personal assets and their business assets because you can't do one without the other.
That's so interesting. Not just interesting, but that's so typical in this world, like especially when you don't plan for these things ahead of time. There's family members showing up like, hey, I'm part of this too. I'm like, wait, where'd you come from? And we've had tons of movies or tons of TV shows about this land grab and whatnot, which is really interesting and sometimes it's kind of scary.
Well, it was really more than scary because think about it. At this point, my mother had passed away, so I'm dealing with my uncle and my aunts. And the thing is, no matter where you live, the government has a plan for your assets. So if you don't have a will or a trust, there's an outline that the government has for who inherits your property. So, we were kind of dealing with a lot of greed, people just kind of thinking of themselves. And, it was kind of disheartening, but I thank God for it because it made me who I am today. And it really caused me to see the world in a different light. I regret that it happened to my family, but I'm grateful for the opportunity to just go full on and learn about the law and asset protection. And so now I'm able to help other people so that they can avoid the same thing that I ran into.
Man, that's it's almost like a double-edged sword, right? It's a blessing in disguise, right? And you kind of have to go through those tough stages to learn these hard lessons or be provided with the right path that then leads us to a much better place. Like imagine the journey of the little seedling that's buried under the ground for, all they're getting is the nutrients from the earth, but then it's after all that struggle and the seedling coming out on top of seeing the sunlight. I think that's a very that's a more, what's the word? A reflective of how our lives are sometimes, and sometimes, they're different. So it's really amazing to see that you were able to overcome those things and overcome and find the right help and find the right pathways because there are other ways you could have ended up. and then, your story would not be heard here.
Well, and I like to think of myself as a student forever. I am constantly trying to master
Mm.
the thing that I'm doing. And so with mastery, you have to be battle tested. It's one thing to have degrees or certifications and to learn
Mm.
things in a classroom setting, but you really have to apply those things. And sometimes the way that you get there is not optimal, it's not desirable, but it
Yeah.
gets you there. So I think I've been battle tested. And I think that kind of shines through when I'm working with clients because I understand the theoretical portion of it, but very practically, I understand how things happen in the real world.
Man, I love that so much. Battle tested. This episode is battle tested. You got like a step kind of thing. So, Sherry, talk to us about how you work with entrepreneurs. Where would somebody start if they were just entering the world of entrepreneurship? They find that they have grandparents or they have parents that have land and whatnot. Like, for example, really interesting. And I'm afraid of this myself. My mom's been telling me, "Hey, we got to go to Pakistan because my dad owns property over there. Somebody else's, like we're renting it or whatnot." And she's like, "We got to go there and get that thing settled." I'm like, "But I don't know anything about it. So where would somebody start, like myself or somebody who's coming to property, or they just want to be better prepared for the future?"
Oh, definitely. Um, Consider this for those of you who've been, who fly on airplanes. The first thing they tell you when they give you the instructions is that if something happens on the plane, put your mask on first
Hmm.
before you attempt to help someone else. So I tell entrepreneurs before you can even look at your business, look around your home, look at your family. What is it in your immediate space that you need to protect? What are your goals? Maybe you are a young married couple. You may be a single person. What are your goals? And we start by looking at where we are today and very simply, we start with an inventory. So if you're an entrepreneur, what are your assets? You have personal assets and business assets. Do you have things that you paid for out of your pocket that you're using in your business? And we really try to assess how much risk that you have personally and with your business. And even if you already have an established business, these are things that you can do as well. It really just starts with an inventory, identifying what you have, separating your personal from your business. And if those things are commingled, I help them with a system to kind of divide those so that if there's any risk, the risk is separated by personal and business.
I love that. So take inventory of what we already have. Kind of like when we're going this trip, we're taking inventory. Hey, we need to take all of these things so that we are comfortable on that trip. So the same applies to our personal life and our personal belongings and or business belongings. Hey, take account to what all these things are. So, all right, I've I've made a list of all the things that I own, or that I use for business, that I'm living in, in a home and whatnot. How d- how does that help me now that I have this list?
So, one example that everybody can relate to, like say for instance, when your business first started, you may have stellar personal credit, but you don't have a business credit history yet. So you start purchasing things using your social security number or personal guarantees. This is where we just kind of, draw the line on that. So if you have, say, a car that you're using in your business, but it was paid for with your personal funds and it's titled in your personal name, what happens if you have an accident? But you're doing something for the business. They can now reach over in your pockets and put a lien on your property. They can, if you have liquid assets, they can possibly reach those if there's a judgment against you. So that's where we start, improving the classification of those assets. So if it was something that was personal, but it's really used for business, we start taking the legal steps to transfer that ownership. And that's a really big part of it. And that's just step one. Step two, we start looking at your entities.
Mm.
People think that they're in business and they're operating three or four companies, but they're doing it out of one LLC. That is very dangerous. So
Mm.
step two, after the inventory, will be just to really look at your business structure.
Man, that is so cool because yes, I do have, I have like for example, if I were to take myself as an example, I've got the home studio mastery, I've got the hacks and hobbies, got the humble zone, kind of like I call it the umbrella, but it's not really an umbrella because it's not really protecting anything more than what it is.
And
So,
so if I were talking to you about that,
mm-hmm,
because I am big on umbrellas, but the umbrellas that I start with, they're personal.
mm-hmm,
So I would say, hey, do you have a trust? And that's, I'm a huge proponent of trust versus wills. And
mm-hmm,
every estate planning instrument has its place. But if you are a business person, having a trust is a really, neat thing to do
mm-hmm,
because it helps you avoid probate. It makes things efficient in terms of passing them on to future generations. And if you do it the right way, there's some creditor protection as well. And if you're working with the right people on your money team, an offset of that is tax savings once you start building your entities under your umbrella. So, I mean, you definitely have a great roadmap. But I
mm-hmm.
think what some people confuse when you start talking about holding companies versus parent companies, you really want a holding company that does nothing but hold your assets. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. And maybe a parent company that provides certain services or complementary services. So those are like the really fun things. I kind of geek out about stuff like
Oh my
that.
God. I'm
Yeah,
I'm I'm
that's my
getting
jam. That's
goosebumps.
my jam. So I kind of like stuff like that.
I love that. So now that we've got the inventory, we've figured out what kind of structure you want to build to protect our assets, to protect our companies, to protect the entire entity, essentially building that moat that you mentioned around somebody. And I know we're kind of going deep into the depths. Like, I mean, well, maybe we're not. I mean, you just said this was step one or step two. So how, like, what are some of the other steps? Because I want to give the tools available and then, enable the listener here to come talk to you if they have a more deeper need of or hey, help me help me clean up my mess or clean up my not just clean up but get a better guiding plan essentially.
Oh, yeah. And at any stage of your business, you can do this. So, part of determining the type of entity that you need, there's a multi-step process.
Mm,
One thing is, do you have a public-facing company? One example I love to use is Kim Kardashian and the Skims
mm,
brand. That brand is built on ambassadors and, famous people and people of all sizes endorsing
yeah.
her brand. And so, just the fact that she's associated with it, she has a huge market share.
Mm,
Well, maybe you are a real estate investor and you may not want somebody to know that you own half of Montana. So, you may require anonymity. That
mm,
kind of informs where we're going to incorporate at. Because most people that want anonymity, they will incorporate their business in Wyoming, Nevada, or Delaware. And, you have different considerations for that.
mm,
But if you're a public facing business, then it might not matter. If you have a real estate business, you want to incorporate where the land is.
mm,
So that's, when we're talking about the entity, that's the first step, anonymity or public facing. And then we kind of involve your money team.
mm.
So when I say money team, what's the first thing that comes to your mind?
um Interesting. Money team would be the bank or people who are making the money.
Yes, that's part of it.
Mm,
Um, Part of building a moat is like building a team. They say it takes a village to raise a child.
mm,
Well, it takes a team to grow your business.
yeah.
And this does not really require a huge outlay of money. These are people that are already working with you or for you. So consider this. If you are in business, you already have a bank account. So
Mm,
your banker is part of your money team. You should be paying your fair share of taxes. Your tax preparer or your tax
yeah.
planner, they are part of your money team. You are
Mm,
paying insurance premiums on a vehicle, a house, rental property, your insurance agent, part of your money team. Um,
mm.
you may or may not have or need a financial advisor, but if you do, once again, money team, and
Part
then
of
my
money team.
favorite, your attorney.
Mm,
So, as an asset protection coach, I'm like the quarterback for your money team. I'm not your personal attorney, um,
mm,
but I'm the quarterback. I work with your team to give them guidance on what to do to help grow your business. And I really get those people talking to one another. Because how
mm,
many of us right now have given our professionals the authority to actually talk to each other about how to work in our business. So I advise folks once a quarter, minimally once a year, have
Mm.
your team get together and work with you on a plan for how your business is going to grow.
Man, that is so interesting. It's almost like most people are the central communication hub for everything that's happening, and then those people are not talking to each other, so it's not empowering them. You're basically you become the bottleneck essentially then.
Yeah. And this is the funny thing.
Mm,
Um, a lot of people don't want to start the process because they think it may be expensive. But once your team starts talking, you actually can save money. How
mm.
many insurance agents are going to recommend to you to cut your premiums or to reduce your coverage? Not many because they're
Not
working
many.
on commissions. Yeah. So one thing that I do as part of, building that moat, I show you how to be smarter with the entities that you build so that you can
Mm.
save money on operations, cut down your legal risk, but also reduce you down to the state minimum insurance premiums. So,
Wow.
you may be paying $1 million premium for a general liability policy. What if we can get that down to 500,000?
Mm.
So now the extra money that you were paying in monthly or quarterly or annual insurance premiums, you can put that back into your business for advertising, bonuses. You can reinvest it. You can put it in a reserve fund. But
Wow.
do you see how that's kind of saving you money?
No, 100%. This is really powerful. I mean, these are things that I had read about them, but never really gotten deeper enough to say, hey, I need to be able to implement this. And again, you're right. You got to have a money team. You got to have people that have the expertise to help you move forward. Because as an entrepreneur, you only have one expertise, and that's your idea that you came up with and you're moving it forward. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people start podcasts, but they only go, last for maybe 7 to 10 episodes because they just love to do the one thing, but all the other things around it, you got to have a team around to make sure that the podcast keeps moving forward.
Oh, definitely. And when you talk about being good at the one thing, when I first started in business, I tried to do my own accounting. I
Mm,
bought a version of QuickBooks and I'm like, I can do this myself. It's simple enough. I'm not making a lot of money starting out, and it would take me all day.
mm-hmm.
The best thing I did was invest in an accountant. And oh my gosh. And so now my accountant and I talk all the time and I save so much money. And then
Mm,
time. What is your time worth? So,
a lot
and
more.
yeah, an investment in an expert is definitely something that your business could grow with.
Man, that's so powerful. So, first step, make sure you have a lot of money. Or you start making money so that you can then start bringing in more and more team. Because you're correct. I mean, when I try to edit my own episodes, I'm spending 3 hours editing one episode. I'm like, okay, where's the rest of the time coming from, right? And when I brought my team in, it shifted or lifted all this weight off my shoulders that I could actually breathe. I'm like, oh my God, I have somebody else helping me in that space. Wow, this is mind blowing.
Yeah. Now, are you familiar with Stephen Covey's book, The Seven Habits of Highly Effective
Oh
People?
yes, absolutely. Uh-huh.
Okay, so begin with the end in mind. I think it's habit number two. Um, Even if you don't have a lot of money today,
Hmm,
it's like building a house. You have to have a solid foundation. You can put
absolutely.
all the best accessories in the home, the best
Hmm,
tile, everything. But if the foundation is no good, then the walls are going to crack and the house is going to eventually crumble.
yeah.
So even if you're starting a business and you don't have a lot of money, these are concepts and things you can do today before you start your business because you want to build that infrastructure so that
Hmm.
as the money comes in, you know what to do with it and how to move it and manage it. So don't, feel like I don't have a multi-million-dollar business. You can do this, you know, with any business at any size.
No, you're 100% correct. Having these things in place not only gives you the freedom to focus on your zone of genius, but also ensures that everybody in the team is working together to win.
Exactly.
Sherry, this has been so mind-opening for me. I mean, this is I mean, we can definitely go deeper and deeper because you have the experience. You love geeking out on this stuff, and I want to have another conversation to understand, hey, how can I actually structure my own business and my own different entities that I've developed over the years, and put in tons of time and energy into it, and how do I make those flourish and move forward? This has been really, really inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we talked about asset protection, estate planning, business planning, and these are all things that are just the tip of the iceberg. But then the deeper you go, the more uh, security and the more solid your foundation becomes, the more, what's that word I'm looking for? Hmm. It's absolutely going to make your business stand out because not only are you focused on the one thing that you're good at, but then you're also empowering the team that's around you to make sure that you keep moving forward. I mean, we just watched the game, right? We just had the Super Bowl just a few days ago, and the team that worked together, I think they made it to the end. Actually, I didn't watch the games. I can't even talk about it properly. Uh, but yeah, I mean, businesses are a team business.
Definitely. And I tell, my clients, you are in a relationship with your business. So think about that. Like if your business is kind of your significant other, how do you treat
Mm,
your significant other? With kindness, with care, you give it
mm,
attention, you do nice things for it, you help maintain it. And so when you're thinking about growing your business and how you look at it, that's one way to look at it because that is your baby. And when you're starting out, sometimes you spend more time developing the concept and
mm.
putting that human capital and sweat equity in than you actually spend with your family and your loved ones. So it's a real investment.
Absolutely. Sherry, this was so much fun. Let's take a quick pause, and then when we get back, you'll share 3 hacks that entrepreneurs can implement in their businesses to get better protected around how they're running their business. Hey guys, welcome back. We've been talking with Scherrie Prince here on the podcast. She's an attorney and asset protection coach, and she's taught us, taught me, I mean, I don't know about you, but I've learned a lot on what I need to have in place for my business so that I can flourish, that I can grow and help it become a foundation for not just myself, but for my kids and for my family moving forward. So, Sherry, you've got a few hacks for us, or or you got 3 hacks or 3 tips that entrepreneurs can implement in their businesses right now.
Yes. Hack number one, consider for each operating entity to have a 3 entity system. What does that
Mm,
mean? That means having a holding company and then 2 service companies. What that does, that breaks up your liability and also sets you up for some tax savings if you're working with a very good accountant who can
mm,
explain to you the difference between a disregarded entity and maybe an S Corp and a C Corp, depending on your level of operations.
mm,
That is so key because a lot of times we will start a business with one company and we will do everything out of that company.
mm,
What happens if there is an exit event with that company? It's gone. So, first hack, a 3 entity system. Love that one. Really easy to do. If you have an attorney on your money team, get with them immediately. It's not very hard to implement. Second thing is make sure you identify and implement a plan for your money team. And we
mm,
talked about in this episode who your money team is. These are people that you're already working with, you're doing business with, you're already paying in some form or fashion, but now you're putting them together, you're having quarterly, semi-annual, or annual meetings, and you're putting together a comprehensive plan to take your business to the next level. Very last thing is having a titanium. And when I say titanium, I mean
mm,
solid operating agreement if you have an LLC, bylaws, or other partnership agreement
Mm,
for the people that run your company. And that should also include a spousal consent form because your agreement is with your business partners,
mm,
not with their spouses. And if you've heard my story, you know that this was a huge, reason my first business failed.
mm,
Basically, what it does, it lets your spouse join in the agreement for certain relief in the event that you become incapacitated or you pass away, because we all have
mm.
an expiration date. Don't
Yeah.
know when it is, but while we're here, we want to take care of business. So those are three very simple things that you can do immediately in your business. Hope this helps.
Sherry, those were solid hacks for sure. I can totally implement them. And, with your help, of course, I can go even deeper and build out a system of business and entities that's, again, protecting not just myself, but also my family, my kids, and whatnot. Make sure that when I expire, they can take over and they know exactly how the system is running. Because just funny, like just yesterday, as we were preparing for our trip, my son, who's almost 14, he's like, Dad, you got to tell me all these things about flights and how these things work and that things work. Like, yeah, that's really interesting because growing up, you either have the luxury to learn from your parents or you have to figure out on your own. And I think a lot of the times you end up figuring out on your own by, either reading books or by finding the right people. And I think it's really important to have that kind of teaching moments or um, things that we can teach our children so that they don't have to go through the groundwork and instead of them going through the hard learning, which would you want them to do, but you're also enabling them to stand on shoulders of giants.
Exactly.
Well, Sherry, thank you so much for your uh Sherry, thank you so, so much for your time, your energy, your wisdom in this podcast that you've shared. Now comes a segment where I love to ask these fun questions to my guests. So are you ready?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So number one, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
I am not a great tennis player.
Mm,
Um, I like it fundamentally, but I wish I'd really dug in a little bit deeper. That would be the one hobby, tennis,
mhm.
being tennis.
Yeah, tennis is a really fun sport for sure. I've seen some games, and where you're like, wow, how did they even pull that off? But again, when you practice, and get really good at it, you can hit ball from any side of the court. All right, next up, what did you want to be when you were a child?
I actually want to be an attorney.
Mm,
Um, it was a dream deferred. I didn't actually go to law school until I was 30. And at that point, I'd been in the business world, had two kids. I had a
mm,
3.5-year-old and a 6-month-old when I started law school. Just really started out watching Perry Mason and Matlock. I don't want to age myself too much, but I did want to be an attorney.
mm.
But at some point, I put that dream on hold and I picked it back up. So I think I'm kind of where I thought I was going to be.
I love it. That's so cool and very inspiring too. There's actually this show where this lady, all her kids were grown up and she wanted to be a doctor. So now she's the oldest intern, in this in this hospital because she wanted to go learn to be a doctor, which is really inspiring because there's no time limit, there's no t age that you can go and, you know, get your dreams and make them true. All right,
Agreed.
next. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or TV show?
So my favorite television show would have to be, oh, there are so many that are on right now. And a lot of them are reality shows. I'm trying to see my favorite one. Um, the most entertaining. Well, I wouldn't even say no. It's not a television show per se, because I do
Mhm.
watch those shows. But can I give you my favorite podcast?
Of course.
Okay, so the Native Land podcast is a new
Mm,
pod that's out, and the three individuals that are on the podcast have just done some awesome things
mm,
individually, and so it's so raw and fresh, and you get to hear viewpoints on politics and other things, and so the visual podcast is really what I'm into right now.
mm.
Um, and so more so than TV, because I don't watch a lot of TV.
Sure.
I kind of playing in the background when I'm working, but I actually do the visual podcast I pay a lot more attention to. So Native Land Pod, I'm going to give them a shout out.
Nice. Thank you so much. All right. So the next question is going to be interesting. What movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
I think I'll be Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Mm, like
It
that.
was one of the earliest movies that I remember watching and just falling in love with. And the story itself and the magic behind it.
Mm,
So, I would be Dorothy.
I love that. Awesome. Next up, who is your superhero favorite? Who is your favorite superhero?
My favorite superhero. And this is not someone that you would commonly think of as a
Mm.
superhero, but for Minnie Mouse to put up with Donald Duck and Mickey and all those other characters, she has to have a cape somewhere.
Hmm.
So when we talk about entertainment and things like that, I'm not a big Marvel or Disney Studios person, but I look at common heroes and I
Mm.
joke about many, but just over time for the Disney brand to, have characters that have, been around longer than I have, and it looks
Mm.
like into perpetuity. So Minnie Mouse.
Nice. And they've built really good characters around those people too. It's really fun to see how they've continued to evolve or continue to stay the same, almost like Captain America, right? He's stayed the same, true and true from the beginning to the end, unlike other characters who have grown over time and changed over time. And it's been really interesting to watch that. All right, last question. If you are a board game, what would it be?
Board game, it would have to be Monopoly.
Mm,
One thing that I don't think a lot of people know about me is that because I decided not to go directly to law school, I got my real estate broker's license. And so I
mm,
love real estate and I maintained it over time, even though I don't practice a lot. So the game of Monopoly, that would be my jam.
mm. I think that also gave you insights into real estate planning, right? Estate planning because you got that real estate license.
Oh, definitely. I mean, there are just so many things that I'm thankful for that I had the
Mm,
opportunity to do. And, one thing for your listeners, don't be afraid to fail. I
mm,
have failed so much,
mm,
but the success that I've had has outweighed my failures because I'm like, okay, won't do that again. Or,
mm.
glad to know this. So let me try this differently. And don't be ashamed of failure. It's part of the process. If you're not
Yeah.
failing, you're not doing something right.
Hmm. You're so right. If you're not failing, you're not growing. I mean, watch a kid learn how to walk. You don't tell him to give up. Hey,
Exactly.
don't bother walking. Keep falling all the time. It's okay to give up. But no, that's the first that's the first indication that you're growing when you fail. Well, Sherry, thank you so much for your time again and your wisdom and your energy here on the podcast. Shout out to which podcast did you mention again?
Native Land Pod.
Shout out to Native Land Pod. You can find that podcast on the podcast listening app that you're listening to or on YouTube for sure. But Sherry, where can people find you and connect with you?
So the best way to connect with me, if you want to go to my website, scherrieprince.com, I have some free resources. I actually have a free course that I teach a couple of times a year. And for an hour, I will show you how to build an estate plan. So you actually walk away with an estate plan that you can do yourself. It's totally free. Doesn't cost you a thing, but about an hour of your time. So if you have an hour for lunch, come check us out.
Nice, Sherry. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to be sure to include the links on the show notes so folks can go take your free course. And I cannot wait to check out your episodes, sorry, your course myself. This has been really inspiring and really eye-opening for sure. Um, God bless you, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Thank you.